I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sean Brodrick, Natural Resource Specialist at the Oxford Club. His website, energyandresourcesdigest.com. Welcome back to the show, Sean.
Thanks very much for having me on.
You did a nice little tour of Nevada last week. What were you digging into?
Well, I went there to look at some gold exploration, gold production, and lithium exploration companies. You know, I mean, that's really the hot spot for it here in the U.S. because Nevada is still elephant country. There are some large deposits that have been found over the years, but they're in these big geologic trends, so it's likely they'll be able to find more large deposits. And in these cases, it sometimes feels like people are just scratching the surface. They believe they're on the track of like something big, and so it seemed like a good time to go check that out because I believe gold is coming to a bottom. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that. And so now's the time when I want to be looking at that sort of thing.
How much is there to be found in Nevada? I find once you get out of the big cities, Vegas and Reno, it is still little countryville where you can drive 50, 60, 100 miles and not see another person.
Right, and you can drive it at 100 miles an hour because there's no one to stop you. You have to. It's just these insane stretches of like land. And an interesting thing, and I don't know how much your listeners are into geology, but the way that the way Nevada is formed, you have these short mountain ranges that just kind of are in rows with these flat plains that like have salt on them between them. And it's how Nevada was formed. There are parts of it that are crunching up. That's called horst. Those are the mountains. And the areas that open up between those then fill in with all the dirt and stuff that like blows along. And so that becomes super flat. And so that's why you can do things like have high-speed race cars out there and stuff like that, because it's amazingly flat in parts. Nevada is also the driest state by precipitation in the United States. It's extremely dry. So it certainly has like people living there, but really what Nevada was, apart from the gold and silver rushes, was it was a place people went through on their way to California, right? So there are parts of it that are very big and open, and so that's why you can find these big deposits. Parts of it haven't really been looked at. And that said, you know, they have these big trends, the Cortez trend, the Carlin trend, other trends like that, where all these minerals just got put down in like one place. New York's wraps around. One guy described it to me like putting a whole bunch of valuables on a rug and then rolling that rug up. And that's what the like Nevada geology is like. And so there's a lot of stuff to be found. I think that some really big discoveries could be made there going forward.
What about the giant Tesla factory? How is that progressing?
Oh, well, I was so hoping to fly over that in a helicopter, but we had high winds on the day I was going to do that. That is progressing. They won't let me near it, by the way. I asked, and they said no. But it is progressing. And they're building more than just batteries, apparently, or at least this is the latest scuttlebutt, is they're also building drivetrains. And if you build a drivetrain, it isn't that far from actually building a car. I don't know how much of a car they're actually going to build there, probably not the whole thing. But it'll be interesting to see what actually comes out of the factory once it starts actual production.
Are people excited about it, and are there a lot of new job opportunities because of Tesla's giant factory?
Well, I don't know about the job opportunities, but I know people are excited about it. In fact, one of the companies that I spoke to is a explorer and project generator, and it's in that area. It has like 7 properties, and just before I arrived, it made a deal where this other company wanted land it had, which is in the Clayton Valley, and Clayton Valley is right where the only working lithium mine in the continental U.S. is. And so everyone thinks that's the hot spot. And so among the companies, there's a sense of a fever, of a rush, that we really want to get these things. And one thing people have to understand is just because someone puts out a sign and says he's a lithium explorer, that doesn't make him so. He might just be a real estate company. And there is a bunch of lithium coming online between now and 2020. That is, if these projects work out the way that they want to. I can guarantee you at least some of them won't. But so we'll have to see what happens then. Certainly there's less lithium than there is demand right now. That's supposed to change in the next couple of years. But then we're supposed to shift back again and have more demand than supply, even though new lithium projects are coming online. So people are looking like 5 years down the road and just seeing tremendous demand. They're seeing the fact that in China, if you want to buy a car with an internal combustion engine, you have to play the lottery to see if you can get a license for it. But you can buy an electric car any old time. They are seeing things that countries like Germany are talking about actually outlawing the internal combustion engine over the next 5 to 10 years. So looking at that, seeing these big trends, and people are very excited about lithium. That said, there's a lot more to a lithium battery than lithium. In fact, there isn't much lithium in it at all. It's just the vital ingredient. The other metals can change, so they kind of use the same ones. And there's a lot unknown. People make very strong predictions about what will happen in the lithium market. There are a lot of unknowns here. And so I'm looking at opportunities, and I hope they work out. But, we have to understand that people are making predictions like, let me give you one. Based on the trends that we've seen over the past 10 years or so, many experts, including ones at Bloomberg, by the way, are now predicting that the cost of electric cars will be at par or lower than the cost of gasoline-powered cars by like 2024 or something. That's not that far away. So maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't. There are a whole bunch of things that could actually take place in there. But certainly it has a real wide-open feel, and you can see the excitement in the investing whole market there, and also people who are actually looking for this stuff. They are definitely excited.
Well, Texas might want to be excited about lithium, too, because in Alberta, they've discovered that the natural salt water that fills in old oil wells is full of lithium, and you can recover it. So perhaps... Yeah. Lithium
is not rare. The problem is finding it in an economical amount. Down in South America, for example, it's very rich. There are parts in like Nevada where it is economical, but all these properties that are being touted, will they be economical or not? As the price goes higher, they certainly will be. But if the price stays flat or goes lower, some of them won't work out. I don't know anything about what's going on in Alberta, and I'm glad you mentioned that to me because I would like to look that up. But do they have enough lithium to make it worth your while to actually go through the trouble of all the work that's involved in a mine? I don't know about that.
Well, I think the salt water comes from the fact that those are all ancient seabeds, the same thing that caused the oil, in the first place. Right.
Well, there is a lot of that, and there's a lot of just general mineral stuff. And so, this is part of the thing they have down in Nevada. One time there was a great salt lake that, was over pretty much the entire state. And so that's a lot of what we're actually dealing with there. So, if it works out in a way that's actually, you can make money from it, then it'll be something worth looking at. People just have to understand lithium is not rare, but finding it in an economical amount, that is the trick.
And, of course, to get into the mine in Nevada, you'll have to go through a sea of slot machines, right?
It certainly is that way, which is funny because I'm not a gambler, and I mean, but you can't walk to the airport or into a fast food restaurant in Nevada without seeing slot machines. And, I mean, they're just all over the place. Let me tell you, though, there's nothing sadder than walking through a casino at 8 o'clock in the morning and seeing that crowd. Those people have not had a good night if they're still there by 8 a.m.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after the break.
Gem International is a new diamond explorer in the richest diamond producing country in Africa, located next to the fourth largest producing diamond mine in the world. International Spotlight is on an 1109 carat diamond recently discovered in Africa by a fellow Canadian junior with a proven operator and finance team. Gem International trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol GI. Visit us at gemdiamondmining.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. Sean, everybody's taking a look at this giant proposed deal where AT&T would buy Time Warner for about $86 billion. Of course, that has to be approved by Washington. But with the state of affairs in Washington, it seems to me it might be just a rubber stamp.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you're probably right, probably because big money always gets its way. But I think it's a truly terrible deal, at least for consumers. I saw someone from one of those companies on the morning news speaking about how this means consumers will have more choice. Of course it means consumers won't have more choice. Monopolies do not like to give you choices. And that's basically what this kind of thing is actually pointing toward. We've seen U.S. media companies consolidate more and more and more over the years. At some point, we're just going to be left with one, and then what kind of choice are we going to have then? I don't like this at all. That doesn't mean that it won't pass because, again, money talks, so we'll have to see how that works out. One thing that I would point out, that large-scale media mergers in the past have actually not worked out for shareholders. They say this one will, but I'm sure the people who are saying that have a very vested interest in seeing this deal go through.
Right. Now, Time Warner, they own CNN, of course, Time Magazine, but ABC Television, the list is on and on and on. Right now, I believe 5 companies own about 90% of the media in the U.S. That would shrink it down to 4 companies or less.
Yeah, I mean, Time Warner is a huge conglomerate that should be broken up anyway. I mean, it's just too darn big. It controls too much of the media. In any sane country, I think that would have happened. But that's not what happens here.
What about the U.S. election? How is that affecting the markets? Are people holding on to their money to see which way it breaks?
I can tell you how it's affecting my friends. It's driving them crazy on the left and the right. I mean, people who are really invested in this election, they are just going nuts. And so that has to be distracting, right? If you're obsessed with every piece of, like, political news that comes down the pike, then you just really aren't paying attention to the markets. I can kind of see it in the gold market, which even though gold finished last week above the 200-day moving average, it's still weak. I think last time we talked, I mentioned that even as the price of gold had been coming down, big money was actually picking up gold through the GLD and through other physical gold funds. But on Friday, there was a huge selling of gold from the GLD. They sold like 10 tons. And so I'm not sure what all that is about. But right now, precious metals looks flat. Energy, it was getting some real buzz from the fact that OPEC was going to meet in like November, and they were going to impose production quotas, and Russia was going to be there. Just over the weekend, Iran came out and said, nah, we're not going to do that. So, that kicked oil in the teeth. So, stocks seem to be in a range. Oil seems to be in a range. Gold seems to be in a range. I'm not sure what will shake things out of this range. Maybe when the election is over and people can focus back on their investments. You might have a good point there. Maybe that will be enough. But for right now, things are ranging and things are actually kind of boring.
Warren Buffett is sitting on a stack of $75 billion in cash. He expects something to break down somewhere where he's going to find bargains for that 75 bill.
You know, I've been speaking to bears who are really, I guess you would say optimistic, though that seems a strange word to use, but optimistic that there will be a big sell-off. You know, they say that the sideways grind is really disheartening for people, especially when they see the fact that earnings are going to be down again for another quarter in a row. That's 5 quarters in a row, by the way, earnings for the S&P 500 going down. And so at some point there will be a realization that we're in the new normal of much lower growth, and that will really send things lower, and that's when those bears want to buy. I don't know if they're right or not, because balance against that is the central banks of the world continue to pump money into stocks, into economies, into you name it. And so things tend to float higher on that cushion of money. So again, that's one reason why we're in this range where things really kind of bounce along. People want to talk about fundamentals now, and I understand that, you know, because I like fundamentals too. But with the central bank funds sloshing around back and forth, sometimes things can get all weird and wacky, and so what you think should be a fundamental isn't the overriding thing. It could be just that the central bank is, like, you know, putting so much money into the other banks that they have to put money to work in like stocks, and like that really what's happening. One thing that's really supporting the stock market in the U.S., by the way, is stock buybacks by the big companies. That's huge. They are buying back their own stocks with both hands, and that's really supporting things. But is that a sign of growth, that the best thing they can find to invest in is their own stock? Probably not. So these are the many things that we're really balancing. I wish I could be more, like, decisive one way or the other. But I listen to the bears. They make a good case. I listen to people talk about the central banks. They make a good case. And I'm not really convinced about the market overall. Conviction just seems to be lacking right now.
So perhaps Buffett's right. A good time to hold your cash and maybe hold your breath until the election's over.
I guess. I mean, I still find value in, especially because they've come back a bit recently, natural gas stocks. When I look at the big trend in, like, natural gas and how we're now, the U.S. exports of, like, natural gas will be going higher and higher and higher. There's not a lot of drilling going on there. I think natural gas could do well, and I think natural gas is a great place to put your money to work right now, especially because, you know, things ran up for a bit, then we had a pullback. Well, when you have that pullback and the trend seems to be turning higher, that's when you want to get in there. Precious metals, if it is bottoming, then this is a great time to put money to work, but I'm not sure if it's bottoming yet, so the jury's still out on that. So yeah, you can go with Warren Buffett and wait. No one ever went broke waiting. You know, you just miss opportunities. That's the whole thing. So you have to balance your opportunities against your fears and see what works right for you right now.
Sean, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks very much. It's always good to be on.
My guest has been Sean Brodrick, Natural Resource Specialist at the Oxford Club, with website energyandresourcesdigest.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Questions can be emailed to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.